Hello and good morning. My name is John Dean from Lincoln MoneyGuard. Today I want to talk to you about utilizing MoneyGuard as a solution in your practice for planning for long-term care. And to begin, I want to start off by telling a story. You see, I like to think of myself as the Mark Twain of long-term care. And I know it hasn't really stuck yet as a name, but I'm hoping that this might cement it potentially. You see, Mark Twain has his tale of two cities, and I have my tale of two grandmothers. The beginning starts out just the same. It was the best of times, and it was the worst of times. Grandma 1, my father's mother, Grandma Dean, the woman who walked me to school every day since I was in pre-K until I was, quite frankly, a little bit too old to be walked to school, needed to have a long-term care event. At age 85, she had no long-term care plan in place. And we needed to sell the Dean family home. The home my father was born in, the home my brother was born in, the home I grew up in, the place where we had every Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Easter my entire life is gone. My job before Lincoln was to clear everything out of that house. Anything I couldn't sell in a yard sale, I had to throw away. And after 65 years of Dean family members, there was a lot of memories that had to be thrown away. A lot of my family couldn't even be there to watch it. So by myself, I went up and down from the basement, back and forth from the attic, throwing away those memories because there was no plan. On the other side of things, my mom's mother, Grandma Robinson, she had that long-term care conversation. At age 55, she sat down with a financial advisor and she picked a plan. Now, when you go to visit Grandma Robinson, you're not worried about long-term care. In fact, you're worried about short-term care because when you're visiting Grandma Robinson, you're on vacation. You see, with her own condo in an assisted living facility in Tampa, Florida, Grandma Robinson has that plan and she's comfortable. You see, when you're there, you have two options. Either go out the front door to the beach or the back door to the back nine. Grandma Robinson has a plan in place, and let me tell you, that plan is working. When you plan for long-term care, you either plan by design or plan by default. You can be proactive or you can be reactive. My goal for you today is to see the importance of putting this plan in place for you and your clients. So take a moment. Think about someone who you know needs to have this long-term care conversation. Maybe it's a father, a mother, a grandfather, a grandmother. Maybe it's someone in your book of business. Because 2/3 of the individuals in your book of business are going to need long-term care. Have you had this conversation with them? If not, who is? Because this conversation is uncomfortable. Bring 30 years of excellence to the table. Today, I want to talk to you about 3 primary facets about long-term care. First, the importance of having this conversation. Second, how Lincoln MoneyGuard is the premier solution for long-term care. And finally, about the individuals in your book of business that we need to be having this conversation with. So first, the importance of having this conversation. Let's go back to that tale of two grandmothers. Let's analyze that tale and see what we can learn about the importance of having this conversation. Grandma Dean, at age 85, has no other assets to draw down on. So she sells the Dean family home. So what's the Dean family home sell for? And what does that solve for in long-term care? Well, I'll let you know that it sold for less than 1/3 the average cost of long-term care in the state of Pennsylvania. The remainder of those funds have come from my father and his siblings. Because when you don't plan for long-term care, it doesn't just affect you, it affects your loved ones, physically, financially, and emotionally. Grandma Robinson, on the other hand, she had that long-term care conversation. Not when she was 85, but when she was 55. She sat down with a financial advisor and they picked a plan. A plan that would guarantee that she would have emotional and financial stability for everything that she had worked on in her life, so that her loved ones would not be her care providers, but be her care coordinators. When I look back at the conversation with my grandmothers, I want to make sure that the same thing doesn't happen to you and your clients. because this conversation is messy. It is uncomfortable, but it is important. It's important. So now let's look at Lincoln MoneyGuard as the premier solution when planning for long-term care. You see, for over 30 years, Lincoln has been the flagship solution when it comes to planning for long-term care. We are the first hybrid policy in the marketplace, and just last year we protected over $4 billion in the assets from long-term care events in the future. We do this by setting aside capital into a portfolio that grows tax-free and comes out tax-free. It doesn't work like your traditional insurance vehicle. It's more like an asset to your client's portfolio. Day one of the policy being placed in force, your clients will have access to a myriad of different libraries for learning about long-term care frequently asked questions to their own concierge care coordinator. It's that individual, based not halfway across the world, but here in the United States. That is the reason why we can boast that 95% of our claims are paid within 3 business days. Lincoln MoneyGuard has your back on the front end and on the back end. We are committed to long-term care in every facet of our business. But this conversation is hard. We've talked about the importance of this conversation, and we've shown you how MoneyGuard is the premier solution in the marketplace. But who do we have this conversation with? Well, our premier assets, our individuals that we're going to be looking at, are individuals aged 50 to 65 with debt independence and hopefully the kids out of the house, off the payroll. It's those individuals with time on their side who can start planning for this long-term care event now. But John, this long-term care conversation, it's expensive. Yeah, well, my grandmother could hardly afford a financial advisor. And it is a hardcore conversation to have. It's expensive. But Lincoln is committed to having individuals have the opportunity to plan for long-term care. So committed, in fact, that we have ability to finance the paying options over a number of years. It's our pay to 65 option. And last year, it was our largest growing segment. So successful, in fact, that this year we've doubled down, giving the ability to flex out those premiums out to age 70 so that more people can have this conversation now, so that more people can have this conversation together. You see, we've talked about the importance of having this conversation. I've shown you how MoneyGuard is the premier solution when it comes to planning for long-term care. And we've gone over the individuals that we need to be targeting to have this conversation together. The bottom line is this. Your book of business is important. Every individual in your book of business is critical to have this conversation with, bring 30 years of excellence to the table. My ask for you today is to think of 2 individuals in that book of business, individuals you know need to have this long-term care conversation. Write them down and then send them over to me. My team will create a customized strategy for them specifically, and together we'll have this long-term care conversation. Thank you very much. My name is John Dean. I appreciate the time here today. I hope you have a great day.